Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by La Quinta by Wyndham. Your work can take you all over the place, like Texas. You've never been, but it's going to be great because you're staying at La Quinta by Wyndham. Their free Bright Side breakfast will give you energy for the day ahead. And after, you can unwind using their free high-speed Wi-Fi. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine. Book your stay today at lq.com.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode, and I've got a fantastic couple for you today, Meredith and Craig, and they're business entrepreneurs, and it's a great guest for the audience because they're talking about taking a leap, building a business, building a company, influencing impact, and living a life of their own. So they help heart-driven entrepreneurs, and they equip others to believe they are worthy of their dreams and help them build their best lives. So Craig, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know I'm getting more and more frequent couple partners on the show. So talk about your journey, your struggles, your learnings, and how it made you do what you're doing today.
Sure. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, so we are your typical family where we grew up thinking that life was to be lived a certain way. You go to school, you get good grades, you graduate, you go back to school, you get more good grades, you graduate again, you get a good job. And so we were on that life journey. Like, we were well down that path, and we were working for a large company. Both of us worked for the same company. That's how we met. And during the pandemic, obviously big changes are happening all over the world. We don't know what's going on. Companies are in that same boat. And they were making some changes. And there was an opportunity that was offered to us where we could relocate from where we were and continue to have a job, or we would leave the company. And so we really thought hard and long about that decision. And ultimately what it came down to for us was we realized that there was a different way. It doesn't have to be the way we were taught growing up, as kids growing up. We made a big life choice to go out on our own, and we didn't really know what that meant in that very moment. It was scary as heck.
We're planners, we're very planful people. And then when this opportunity presented itself, and we were working that corporate lifestyle, the stable 6-figure incomes, and the opportunity presented itself, and we just felt drawn to it. We didn't have a plan, which is incredibly stressful for planners, but we got to the point that we were trusting the plan would appear once we made the decision, which is not something either of us have ever done ever before. So it was a scary leap for sure. And we certainly made some mistakes along the way.
A ton of mistakes. But the thing, it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. Like the biggest leap of faith I've ever made. But looking back, I would not change a thing. So obviously we made that leap, we made that decision. And to Meredith's point, had no idea what we were going to do. Just knew that it felt right in our gut. And we were just starting to learn how to trust our gut, to listen to that intuition. And so as we jump out of the plane, we initially were a little bit panicked. We're like, oh my God, we just left behind very good salaries. What are we going to do to pay the bills and live life, all that good stuff? And, we jumped into the first thing we thought would make us money. So we got into real estate investing and bought some properties, and we were just started, created a business and got a logo and
website,
all the things you do when you start a business. We got into it, and we realized that this is not business is for us. We want to get into business, but we have chosen the wrong business. Now, don't get me wrong, real estate's great. It's just, and we own some properties and all that stuff, but it's not something that we want to focus on full time every day. It wasn't a passion of ours.
The day existence trying to make this business work was showing up in our relationship. We were getting grumpy with each other. We were getting a little snippy with each other. And so Craig threw the challenge flag and said, let's have a timeout. What are we doing? Where are we going? And we had to really reevaluate. And we were about 5 weeks into that business and said, no, this isn't for us. No.
So big investment, financial time, but it could have been much worse. Had we tried to make that work for longer, what we did was we realized that we need to cut our losses now so that it doesn't become a bigger loss down the road. So that was one big lesson that we learned, was just cut your losses.
And we hadn't done the work first. What do you actually want your life to be like? We'd never done that work. So that's where we had to start.
And that was the second big lesson, was we didn't know ourselves. We didn't know, when we left our corporate jobs, we didn't know what it was that really was on our heart to do. We knew we wanted to leave the corporate world, but we didn't actually know what that meant for what we wanted to bring to the world. So that was the next step, was to really hone in on that for ourselves, figure out who we were as people and what we wanted our legacy to be, what we wanted to offer the world. So that was the next, I guess, chapter of the journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Through that sort of getting to know ourselves and rebuild ourselves, we took a focus on our health and our personal growth, and we were going to different events. And at every event, as we got to know people, they kept asking us questions about our relationship. And till finally we started to realize, our relationship is actually our superpower. And then we finally got asked to speak on stage about building strong relationships. And that really clarified for us that this is what we're meant to be doing. We've got a superpower here that we think when your relationship is dialed in, the rest of your life gets so much easier. And so we wanted to share that with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I love that. It brings back so many memories. I did what you guys did. I did it in 2008, right after Lehman Brothers collapse, leaving a very lucrative medical career. And like on the outside, it was just like everybody was telling me, you're making the biggest mistake and you're throwing away your life. But inside, it was just like, this is correct. And just so many analogies. And I assume you were on stage at Tony Robbins events, which kind of sounds, if what I gathered, or one of the personal development. So one thing I love is talking about is just this idea is, entrepreneurship is, they say it's jumping out of a plane and building a parachute on the way down. And yeah. So when you, and I love this idea that, where you decided, you're entrepreneurs, but like real estate, you tried real estate, that's kind of what most high income earners, they gravitate towards because everybody says real estate. Like I remember I just like, once I decided to let go of some properties and just kind of free up that time. And then actually my business was, 2 or 3 times more successful than the actual real estate. So it's really interesting when you open up things, the universe comes in and fills that up. So, talk about, what kind of businesses attracted you that were thriving, based on your personalities and your assessments, and, what are you guys doing now?
At Evernorth Health Services, we believe costs shouldn't get in the way of life-changing care, and we're doing everything in our power to make it possible. Behavioral health solutions that also keep your projections at their best? It's possible. Pharmacy benefits that benefit your bottom line? It's possible. Complex specialty care that cares about your ROI? It's possible. Because we're already doing it. All while saving businesses billions. That's Wonder made possible. Learn more at evernorth.com/wonder.
Well, we jumped into the real estate investing, and even within there's so many options. So we selected a really complicated vehicle that when it was on our heart to help people. And this was the best way we could think of to do it, with the housing crisis around where we live. And once we actually stopped to run the numbers, once we were feeling miserable, we realized it's not a viable option here. And so that was part of it. And then I'd say we also jumped into an Amazon store as in that same sort of knee-jerk, replace our income, what are we going to do, not what do we want. And it wasn't until we took the step back on the what do we want and started focusing on us that the coaching really bubbled to the surface, that we've got a gift that we want to share and help people.
The one thing we were very aware of early on this journey is the importance of coaching and mentorship. So right out of the gates, even when we got into real estate investing, we had someone who was helping us, coaching us along. When we got into the e-commerce side of things, we had someone who was there to help us along. And then as we went further along on our journey, we realized that we wanted to really focus on personal growth, learn more about ourselves. And again, we found someone who we work with, a coach that was kind of helping us to, become the better versions of us and understand what it was that we wanted to leave as a legacy for the world. And he kind of pointed us a little bit, showed us held the mirror up to us and let us see our own gifts and what we could offer the world. And so that was a turning point for us, in that it was really coaching, and specifically in relationships. And that's where we've gravitated now, is that we've got a coaching business where we help people struggling in their marriages to, turn it around, avoid divorce, and have a thriving, happy, fulfilled marriage that they truly deserve and that everybody wants, right? So that's where we ultimately ended up.
A real pillar for us in our relationship and in our life is adventures and fun. And we've found that one hurdle a lot of people encounter, this is when your marriage is in trouble, it's a really heavy, dark time. And so we do our best to bring a little bit of levity and try and reintroduce fun, both for them, for the couple, but also in the process, because a lot of the reason it seems couples don't get help earlier is that the idea they have around, I gotta get in the car and drive to the counselor's office, and then have this awkward conversation with a stranger, and then have that awkward drive home after that counselor's office. And so we've created
only for awkward and maybe even cause more of a fight because of something they brought up in the session that didn't work. But yeah, it's something that, we've definitely strive to change.
To take a more fun, an approach you're more likely to enjoy than dread.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question is, for example, there's a lot of solopreneurs, and there's a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs that have like business partners. Talk about how it is with being a business partner with your spouse. For example, like if my wife were my business partner, we would be at each other's throats all the time. So, she's more of a W-2 and I'm more of a entrepreneur. So we kind of make it work. But talk about how you separate boundaries, and, if you're, spending time with, kind of creating boundaries for yourself, for the relationship, for others.
I mean, we spend
a lot of time together.
95 or more % of our day within arm's length of each other.
Partners, we're best friends, we're married. We spend a lot of time together. And you're right. You have to make that work. You have to have some processes and some boundaries in place. And honestly, I think for us, it just kind of naturally, we understand a little bit about our own personalities, and we can kind of get a feel for when one person is maybe feeling a little off or a little annoyed about something. We give them that space.
And also because there's always bad days, as an entrepreneur, every day is not sunshine and rainbows. And so generally we don't have a down day on the same day, which is helpful. So the other one understands and can pick the other one back up. But I think we're also good at, having a cutoff time at the end of the day. And not that work doesn't come up after work, it still does, but we walk away from the desk at supper time, dinner time, and leave it till the morning.
There's focus time. There's all obviously business time that we're always interacting, but we want to make it very, very clear cut that there's also us time, which is not business. It's a focus on us, because what we prioritize, what matters to us, we have to prioritize, and we have to make our priorities, put them in a calendar, or make sure that there's something that is, giving you that very specific boundary of, this was work time, we did this here, and whatever conversations and whatever kind of issues or conversations we were having at that time, those are over now. And now we're going to go and we're going to have our relationship time, and we're going to go on our date night, and we're going to go, hang out with our families or whatever it is. And it's been a work in progress, certainly, but I think we've found a pretty good balance now where we're, pretty good at differentiating those different lines.
Element is always finding the gratitude, like, we get to do this together, and keeping that front of mind. And when those challenges do come up, we know that we're driving towards the same goal. We just maybe have a different idea of how to get there. And so coming at that with the open mind that neither of us really know what we're doing. And so we both have an idea of how we want to achieve our goals. So let's take the best out of both and drive forward together. And then also just keeping in mind that we get to do this together. We're grateful. When you're doing it by yourself, there's a lot to do as a solopreneur. And so we have the benefit of two people every day getting to get it all accomplished. So keeping that in mind too, because it is really, it really works well for us to get to do it together.
It is so true that neither of us really know what we're doing. So I could take a position, but I don't know that I'm right. So I'm not too hung up on, the fact that no, it has to be this way, because I actually have no idea. And she probably knows, she knows probably better than I do. So we have those conversations, but it is great to be able to have that person to lean on who kind of knows what you're going through, because, well, they went through it yesterday, or they're going through it too, but they're in maybe a little bit better spot today to keep you propped up.
Very infrequently, when we do have a bad day on the same day, we are pretty good about giving each other space. And if we get a little snippy, which doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, then a little bit of space, and then we come back and always apologize. And that's a critical piece.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me is this boundaries and establishing, and same thing, with my wife, we have our careers, but then we have dedicated time, either date nights or where you're not talking about business, but I tell her I need time to hang out with my friends to talk business, and because she doesn't want to hear the business stuff, so I have to share my ideas with other people and that resonate with my values, but sometimes she's kind of like I have to bounce ideas off her to get kind of a dissenting idea view. So it's kind of and so the other question is this where you talk about especially relationships. So what I love you have a really strong relationship and make it work, and then talk about overcoming doubts and then significant fears you faced, how you managed to stay committed, push past them, because really entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
No,
I use that exact entrepreneurship is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Before, and you go in thinking, but then once you get in here, it's like, oh yeah, this is really scary.
Yeah.
It really is.
I honestly, I'm actually really grateful that we struggled really early on and had that business that was quote unquote a failure. It wasn't a successful business, but I don't see it as a failure in that it really significantly impacted our growth. And it turned us towards a real focus on personal growth and mindset work. And so having that dedicated, we went hard into personal growth. I mean, we still do. We still read books and listen to podcasts, and it's a never ending journey, but we hit it really, really hard, because when we were in the corporate world, it wasn't something that I was super into. Like I graduated school and I was focused on career and doing those sorts of things. But then when we left, that's when it really was like mindset. And so turning, for example, that first failure of a company into a positive, like that's a mindset shift. That's not old version of me, old corporate version of me would have dwelled on that. That was a failure. I would have beat myself up. That would have been something that kept me down for quite a while. Going through this personal growth journey, it's all about understanding you are where you are for a reason, and it's to learn lessons and overcome certain struggles. And, those things are going to happen. And we signed up for this. This is something that it's not for the faint of heart, but we willingly signed up for it. And so having that's an empowering thought that this is all you're doing. This is all your control. You signed up for this. So you get the really great benefits of getting to build a dream life with your best friend and your business partner and your wife. And you're going to have to pay a price for that. And so it's just keeping that, I guess, in the back of my mind that it is what it is. This is what we signed up for.
I think about the whole entrepreneurship journey is it forces you to become the best version of you. It forces you to face your demons, face your limitations. You know, we were both quite successful in our corporate lives without having to do any of that. And so in order to be successful in this version of our life, we really have to face those fears and those things that are holding us back. So you get to become the best version of you and enjoy the success along the way. So I just think it's such a benefit. And for me, one of the biggest things I've had to overcome to get to this part, because, you know, we're not there, we're getting there, but, you know, it's always an evolution, but is the fear of judgment.
Oh, yeah.
That I think, you know, there's a lot of fears out there that I've had over the years, and fear of failure being another big one, but, you know, fear of criticism, fear of all these things. But for me, when I really think hard about it, most of them boil down to a fear of judgment. It's fear of whatever it is, because what will people say? And so I come from a small town, so that's probably part of it, but it's that fear of judgment, something I've really had to overcome. And then of course, also as an entrepreneur, you eventually have to dive into social media. And so I was a social media consumer before and posted hardly anything. And then when we started this journey, it was like, I'm going to have to actually start posting more meaningful content on social media. And I was terrified to do that because what would people think? And I remember the first time I was going to post something more meaningful, I wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it. It took me 2 hours to write, you know, a little post on Instagram. And then I waited as long as I could until as late into the night as I could before I hit submit so that nobody would see it. Because that's obviously why you would post anything on social media. So nobody would see it. But I was so afraid of what people would think. And so that first post was terrifying. And the second post was almost equally terrifying, but just a teeny tiny. So it gets a teeny tiny bit easier every time that you come face to face with your limitation or your fear and you feel it, which gives you the opportunity to be brave. And then you can be brave and take that action anyway. And that's how you build momentum, but it's not an easy process for sure.
Big obstacle on this journey that I found is fear of judgment for sure, and all the fears that go along with it, but also a feeling of worthiness. A feeling of being worthy of the life that you're trying to build, the success that you're trying to have. I think worthiness is an epidemic in the world, especially, and
unworthiness.
The feeling of being worthy. So unworthiness is an epidemic. And there's been a lot of work, mindset work around understanding the limiting beliefs that I've held about myself, and releasing those and transferring those to empowering beliefs that serve me, that you know, and there's a lot of work that goes into that, but that's another big, I would say.
We both discovered early in this personal growth journey very similar limiting beliefs around I'm not good enough, essentially. And we said them kind of differently, but that's the gist of both of us, is I'm not good enough. And so, but there's been a ton of work required there for sure.
And you know, your energy and your vibe and your journey really resembles, you know, my journey as well. So I love having the audience, you know, share in that. And how can people reach out to you and follow you and learn more about you and you know, connect with you?
Well, we've got a website, roadoflifecoaching.com is the first place. We also have a free Facebook group where we just have conversations like this. We go live, we post things, we just engage with people. And that's in a Facebook group called Traveling the Road of Life.
Yep.
Anywhere else? A LinkedIn
profile?
Or
yeah,
Meredith?
Craig on LinkedIn. Yep.
Awesome.
And yeah, just the regular social channels like Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, they can look us up by our name on Facebook, and on Instagram, I think it's McKay and Benentt, our last.
Everywhere.
A little bit different. But yeah, those are the main ways to get in touch for sure. Love hearing from folks about, you know, anything to do with entrepreneurial journeys or relationships or anything that we talked about today. That's our jam. Like, we love hearing from folks about where they are on their journey. If they need any help or support, we're happy to jump in and offer value wherever we can. So yeah.
I love that. Audience, let's thank Meredith and Craig for coming on and sharing their inspiring journey, and be sure to reach out to them to hear more about and give them a like and follow on socials. Check out their coaching. And thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having us, Chris.
It's a pleasure.